What's up, everybody? Welcome to another live stream. Always good to have these. We are obviously continuing our weekly live stream. Need a little water already. That's not a good sign this early in. Anyway, so we're as always, I don't really pick a topic prior to this typically, but let's go with towing modifications. Here we are in the heart of winter. And before we know it, we're going to be through winter and we're going to actually be ready for towing season. A lot of people are buying trucks. I actually know a couple people right now talking to me about purchasing trucks for the purpose of towing this coming season. So I think it's always a good modification or a good topic to discuss and see how things should go. So, which always, of course, my favorite towing modification is, of course, airbags. They're just amazing for towing. I love them very, very much. Those of you just joining us, our background topic until the live chat gets busy with questions and things happening over there is going to be towing modifications. I know we've covered this before, but it is always a great one. There's always some cool products. We'll look some up on Amazon and eBay, see what's out there right now. Robert, good to have you, man. How are you doing? I should probably drop this over on the Facebook page that we're doing, and I have not been good about getting stuff over there for when we're doing these things. So let me just pull up some stuff. We'll send that over. This is live now. Here we go. Just see if we can get some more people in here. But I hope everybody had a good weekend. All right, that's over. That's posted up. Joe, how are you doing, man? Great to have you. Everybody have a good weekend. Sorry, I was looking at the mail side of that, and it's nothing of importance. So, X out of that. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. Great to have everybody on here. As you're just joining the channel or the live stream, please don't forget to hit that like button, get in the live chat, and let me know what's going on with your Powerstroke or other diesels. We do talk about some other ones here on the channel. But always good to have everyone. I hope everyone's had a good weekend. For our topic for today, for when the chat's not busy, is going to be towing modifications. I think there's two main things people should really look at right away with towing and their vehicle. One is airbags. The suspension and having your suspension properly set up is so important for keeping things moving forward. Nolan, how are you doing? What are the issues you're having with your 6.0? And we can address that here on the live stream today for you. I'm going to keep talking a little bit here about some towing stuff while I wait for that question. But once that's in the live chat, we will switch gears and we'll start problem solving, or at least trying to help with what's going on. So while we wait for that, guys, airbags is definitely the best. Having your suspension set up properly, and you can't forget your front suspension. Those of you guys on the older leaf spring front ends especially, as those stock springs wear out, and they do wear out, and you need to fix them. Both front and rear suspension need to be up to date. But we're going to talk predominantly here about airbags and how beneficial they can be. I love the no drill kits, and there's some reasonable budget kits out there. I mean, here's a kit that looks good. It copies a lot of the more expensive ones, but $200 for a nice airbag kit. Looks like it's a knockoff of the Firestone Ride Right, meaning their airbags would fit in there. But it is really similar stuff to that. I have a Ride Right kit in my 6 liter, and I have an Airlift in my 6.7. They're both great kits. Let's see what we got here. Robert, Joe, how you doing, man? Great to have you in the chat. Good to have you on the live stream with us. So we got two questions here, it looks like. So change of plans for the 05, going to sell it and keep my 04 King Ranch. What's your 05? So why sell the 05 and keep the 04? Now, I have an 04. I love it. I don't plan to sell it at all, but I do wish I had the 05 suspension on that truck. So what makes you want to sell the 05? Because the Lariat's still a nice package. Probably has a lot of similarities with the 04 King Ranch. But what makes you do that choice? And then Nolan, let's see here. I was recommended by my mechanic to replace the sit pipe and smarty standpipes and dummy plugs, I'm assuming, is what you mean here, but you can't find them online. Nolan, why you can't find them online is your mechanic sounds like they gave you some bad advice here if they said the sit pipes and smarty plugs. Now maybe that's just joking around, but let's see here. First off, what year truck do you have? Because depending on your year will actually really determine if, depending on what you have will really determine what you need. Because early 04 and the 03 6 liters had just a standpipe, and it was a different style standpipe than the newer trucks had. Then there was an in-between that had the old style high-pressure oil pump, but the new style oil rails. And then there was one that just had the new high-pressure oil pump and oil rails on it. So what year truck, Nolan, do you have? And we can help look up some stuff here. Go to Blessed Performance here, one of our sponsors. So let's find the oil stuff. But they are definitely available. You can definitely find them. I think maybe they gave you the wrong engine parts, oil system. Here we go. I feel like there should be more than just, they have the XDP setup, but I don't like those. All right, so here's the early style. Nolan, so what year truck do you have so we can get you the right parts here? But you can definitely get those. And I'll be able to send you some links to them. He also recommended not to get the diesel site ones. And I'd go Ford, if not the diesel site ones. I know a lot of people that have them in with plenty of luck. But yeah, we can find both here. But again, I need to know what year vehicle you have so I can. He recommended the cheap Amazon ones. All right, I'm done with that. All right, moving on with that. I want to hear what you have to. Let's go to Joe here. Anyway, I want to hear what you have to say about Kill Devil Diesel. I was going through the old videos to see, but didn't see anything about it. That's a good question. Robert, I think Nolan's spamming us. I think he just seems like, yeah. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what Nolan says here in a little bit, but he answered. I'll give him these two links. These are for the Ford part that you need. Ford still makes good stuff. But that's what I'd put in, Nolan. That, although I do think the diesel sites also deserve to be in that conversation as well. Joe, going back to your comment, so Kill Devil Diesel and I have had we've had I don't want to say a falling out because we haven't had a big argument. However, I'm not super happy with the way my build went. We've cracked now 3 rocker boxes. I've had this one kind of jerry-rigged back together to stop leaking. And I definitely don't enjoy that, how that his staff has been rude to me at times. And I'm pretty easy to work with. He got mad at me when I started recommending other shops. He reached out, which was the most he reached out about the issue, despite, again, cracking multiple rocker boxes. They did all the machine work on the heads, the block, all of that. And finally, this last time, which was probably like a year ago, he said, pull the engine and send it down, and we'll fix it, which is great. The problem is I don't have the money to keep pulling engines and sending them up and down the East Coast. So I think the Icon heads are very good. I think he offers a lot of innovative products still. However, I lost one engine partially related to it. A camshaft that I was told was drop-in and wasn't, and when I brought it up later was told, oh yeah, we found out not all of them were. So that was frustrating. I lost one engine related to that. And then again, this other one I've had issues and have had to go back and forth. So it is tough to really recommend everything from them. I think if you're talking big horsepower, it's hard to ignore them. And some of their products, the Icon heads, the swirl of them's better. The flow rate is improved. It's an amazing design and it is very innovative. So I think they consider the valve train the valve train products they offer are awesome. But Nolan's adorable. So I do think that's kind of tough to deal with. Again, I don't think all their stuff's bad. I think I'm probably a fluke, but I can't really it's been less than pleasant how I think in my opinion, I think he owes me money for how bad this is going and the extra money it's cost me to tear everything apart multiple times and then have it fixed. And pretty much at first I was told we're crazy. So that's a little frustrating. And again, I don't know that I've been treated super well either for the amount of money spent with his company. Then to be talked about like we're in this, sponsorship thing. But I mean, I got a 10% discount on the stuff. I didn't get like this crazy thing. He offers most people 10%. So it's not like that crazy of a thing. Again, I think he has some of the most innovative products out there for the 6-liter. He has a lot of cool stuff. I think he's grown really fast. I think he's had troubles in that. Again, I don't think he's a bad guy. I disagree with how I was treated during the process. So again, it's kind of a tough situation because I don't want to badmouth him or his company. But if you're treating an alleged sponsee, I guess, with less than stellar customer service and your staff's being rude towards them, how do I recommend them to my subscribers? Again, though, the iron heads, I think are solid, but there's a lot of options. PSP is a great option. UCF is a great option as well. We have good things that we can get out there to kind of do things as well without having to go them. I do think big horsepower builds have to go that route, though, in my opinion. Robert 05 has some body damage. Oh, that stinks. I get that then. 05 through 07 trucks are not 100% better or 100 times better than 03, 04s. He recommended also to not. Yeah, Joe, sorry about that. I don't know that there is a video somewhere that I kind of talked about it, but I didn't go into like a ton of detail with stuff. Um, PSP heads are good. Not all Kill Devil Diesel heads are bad. I don't want to spread that. So, I mean, oh, the Iron heads are from the same casting. They're from the same company. They're both buying the same thing there. Um, you're doing a Powerstroke Q&A. You don't even work on your own stuff. I do most of my own work. An entire engine overhaul is a little bit different. I'm not a mechanic by trade, but I do most of my own stuff, Nolan. Do. Nolan's hard to keep up with. Half of his messages are spam. All right, let me see here. Babs drove an 06 F550 with heavy service body and crane, was the best service truck engine wise. Here's never let me down. Basic fleet tow tune, I miss it. What do you drive now, man? Iron, good to have you back. Let's see here. Wondering, do the oil pressure sensors leak through the sensor onto the lip? I still get my low pressure oil reading to read on the dash, but there's oil all over the white connector. I've never installed one with anything on it, and Josh has entered the chat. I've never installed any of the oil pressure sensors with Teflon tape. I don't know that that's really warranted. Plus, you do get a ton of pressure. Like they should see like pipe. They're typically pipe fittings. So like pipe thread on this, you shouldn't have an issue with that. Can it? I guess you could. You could throw a little Teflon tape on there, but I wouldn't count on Teflon tape to actually seal it up and prevent any major leaks without with like if I don't think that's going to be your secret. Do I think it's a detriment? No, but I've never installed it that way. I've never seen any of them installed with Teflon tape or any kind of gasket maker in there. They normally seal up. So you could have damaged threads on there or something. The other thing that can happen, it says through the connector, so you can actually push oil through the connector as they fail. That's one of the reasons that they do fail, is that the plastic part of that connector starts letting oil out. That's typically how you get oil on the pigtail. That's how some of the pigtails get ruined. They need cleaned out and or sometimes replaced. I know on mine I had to replace mine once. So I would say you probably have a sensor that needs replaced at this point. Terry, how you doing, brother? Doug, good to have you back. Joe, so you think the heads are flawed and causing the rocker box to crack? So we did send the heads back once because I did have leaking valve seals on the driver's side, and they had asked for both sets of heads back to review, and they said there was nothing there. They did replace all the valve seals. That fixed the leaking issue I was having. So they're saying that it's not the heads, which leads me to believe it's the block. However, the block does seem to spec out like per Ford or international spec as far as flatness. That does spec out correctly. So it's really kind of a complex, goofy problem. I do know that there were some redesigns of the Icon heads, even though I was told they weren't. I know something I can't really disclose publicly, but so I'm not sure what it is, really. We've tried 3 different rocker boxes. It's cracked 3 different rocker boxes. So it is definitely an annoying problem I've had. Hold on a second. We're going to give Nolan a 5-minute timeout again. We had to do that last time. He gets way out of hand. And he just needs to chill a little bit. He's giving bad advice, telling people to use cheap sensors and stuff on these trucks. We're not doing that. I love the capacity to put people in timeout. It kind of entertains me. Mongoose, what's up, brother? Good to have you here. Iron, which sensor is failing? Is it the ICP sensor, or is it one of like your temp sensors on top of the oil cooler? How hard would it be to put an 0460 in trans into a 97 crew cab 7.3? Well, I've never heard of someone doing that. That'd be a cool project. The 7.3 is a pretty big engine, so you'd probably be able to fit the engine in. The 5R is a little bit longer, but I think you'd still be able to fit it in there with the transmission tunnel. I mean, assuming you want a 5R, if you want a manual transmission, it would definitely fit in there. Would definitely be a cool project. I think your biggest issue is going to be wiring on that more than putting the engine in. I think physically the engine will fit. I think wiring is going to be your problem. Joe, what's up, man? 05 350 still won't start. IDS, it's not recognizing the key, no chip in the key. Can you recommend where to go to get an ignition? Does your key turn and you don't get, it sounds like you're not having any, it sounds like you don't have communication with your PCM. In which case I would go looking for a cheap PCM somewhere to try that on. Okay, so it does turn. And you don't get any lights or anything on your dash at all? Okay, you get lights, you replace your ECM. It sounds like something could be shorting it out. You probably have already done this. Have you checked the fuse? Shoot, what fuse is that? It's in the under dash one. I forget which one it is. But it sounds like you have something shorting out or a bad ground potentially causing it. As far as an ignition, if you don't have the chips, you could really put any. I mean, you go to a junkyard and pull an ignition out and replace it as long as they still have the key for it to put in. Just kind of looking stuff up here quick. There's some cheap non-Ford options out there. TRQ brand from 1A Auto. I've had good luck with them. Though either that's just the locking cylinder. So if it's turning and you're getting lights, I don't think that's your issue. Robert has a good point. So if you actually get in your truck, turn your ignition to the on position and go jump your starter and see if the truck actually turned. Like, it should try to crank. If it doesn't crank, then you've eliminated everything. You're somewhere between that wire and your starter. If with putting it on there, if it cranks and starts up, then you have a wiring issue somewhere else. Something's not getting through somewhere on your wiring harness to allow that to happen. Doug cracking up. Doug, are you cracking up because I put him on timeout? So Joe, when you turn it on, the truck tries to start, like it fires up the starter, but it doesn't actually start. And when you hook IDS up, it's not recognizing the key. No chipping key. Can you recommend where to get an ignition? That's weird on those, because in those years you're right, you don't have to program. Well, on account of Josh. No, Josh at times is a comedic genius. I would really refrain from starter fluid on them. Nolan's back. For those that were curious, Nolan is back, and he seems upset. Oh, I didn't even get to his good stuff. I can view his other stuff. Major Ave, don't believe me, I will post my number in the chat and we'll send you pictures. That's weird. Don't send your number. Nolan, man, I don't know what you're so worked up about. You can just leave. Like, I don't care. I really don't put up with it. So you can either be a part of a decent community here, or you can just leave. I really, like I said, I don't care. Yeah, Joe, he was a problem last week too, I remember. It's just goofy. I mean, I know I'm in my free time sitting down doing a live stream, but I am trying to help people and build a channel here, so his HD trim 06. Joe, let's get back to you and try to not let a goofball hijack what we have going on here. Apparently, what he doesn't know is that the regulars will troll him more than anybody else could. No, I didn't mess with him this time, dude. I only put him on timeout for 5 minutes. I thought these millennial kids were used to 5-minute timeouts. You're right, it's not big enough. Robert, truck cranks but won't start. Do you have a monitor like ScanGauge or 4Scan? I don't. What I'm a little shocked with is fix that fast pump. That works. What doesn't make sense to me is that his IDS is saying that it doesn't recognize the key. I've never seen that, or I haven't heard of it. So I guess what you could try to do is replacing the ignition. I'd have to look up at what hurdles there are. Replacing. What if you just because it looks like there is a switch. Let me just look this up. Joe, do you have a video of it? He's a work buddy. Joe, if you could turn around and send me on Instagram what kind of it set, like what's popping up on his screen, and a video of like what what lights are coming on the dash, what the truck is doing, if it's cranking at all or not cranking at all. Something like that is a little harder to really diagnose. It does look like some people replace the plug that goes into with success. I just kind of looked that up and found a few people saying, uh, Nolan's really starting. Any test he should run? Okay, I'll send you a video. I wouldn't necessarily like. So I want to know if it's actually cranking at all, and if it does, like, does it start and kind of cut out? Um, no specific test if it's not really starting. If it does try to crank, the basic stuff. Let's check. I know Nolan will be super excited to hear this, but checking FICM voltage, FICM sync, cam crank sync, battery voltage, those things. ICP pressure measured in voltage along with IPR duty cycle. Uh, those are going to be, does crank it cranks well. So those are going to be the biggest things. So cam sync, FICM sync are important. FICM voltage we need over 47. IPR duty cycle and ICP voltage is what I'd like to know. Making sure you have your battery volts too, if it's dropping too low. That I think, that's what I think we're going to find our issue in. If it's cranking and it feels strong, what year's your truck? All right, no one's going on timeout again. I'm kind of tired of his nonsense. Oh, this kid's irritating me now. Anyway, we're not going to let a goofball hijack this. We're going to continue to get this out there. Yeah, send me that video, man. Let me know what it is. Any if it's not showing the numbers of those specs, super great. I have a video talking about no start conditions kind of recently on the channel. I would definitely pull that up because it talks about a lot of the things we just talked about, and that can kind of be used as a helpful guide as you guys are trying to help problem solve it. But 2005. So in 05, do you know, have you messed with your snap to connect fitting, standpipes, dummy plugs, any of that stuff messed with? The 05s had very strong high pressure oil pumps. They very rarely fail. It can happen. However, it is not a common thing, but I do see a lot of guys having them replaced and then still having an issue later. And then a mechanic somewhere tells them, hey, well, it was definitely failed, but there's this other part. A lot of times those high pressure oil pumps weren't failed. Or did not die on them. Rich, what's up, man? Busting my head on, I think, FICM issues. 05X was running rough, cleared up for a week, then started running rough again until no start. Injector clatter sounds like only 2 injectors are clattering. Rich, do you have any way of looking at the solder thing with no luck? Rich, do you have any way of reading FICM voltage and codes? Oh, wait, well, you obviously have a way to get codes. Do you have a way to read FICM voltage? Mongoose, he is annoying me, but it's more just because he's trying to take away from what we're doing here, and that just, I don't know. It's kind of entertaining at first. Josh has had some pretty funny comments, like if you weren't such a little personality, your insight would be helpful. But at the same time, that's crap like that I want to keep off the channel. He can go bother somebody else in his free time. I don't know what he's so upset about, but I highly doubt it has a whole lot to do with me. But Rich, so what I would do is, so you're getting 3 and 4 contributions. That can be a logic side of your FICM. which you can't rebuild. That needs programmed and you need to have replaced. If that's the case and you can afford for your truck to be down longer, I would send that out to fickumrepair.com. They have a really good reputation, a lot of help. A lot of people highly recommend them to this day. If not, I'd probably look for just a replacement one. Let's see what I can find here. That's repair and return. There is also a bunch of repair services out there for them. Don't get an upgraded voltage on it. Stick with 48 volts. That's what the system's designed around. The other thing I would do is I would unplug and plug back in all of the Fickum connectors. There's 3 big ones behind them. They can get a little brittle, and sometimes the clips off them break, and then they kind of start coming undone, and that can lead to the issue you're having as well. I would agree with you, Robert. A lot of no starts are high pressure oil related. Fickum is strong. Rebuilt dummy plugs, standpipes, dummy plugs 2 years ago. I have, yeah, Joe. And just in case, I'm gonna quick. I don't know if you follow the Instagram, but it's a little different from the channel name. That is the Instagram account there, 6.0 Bros, but there's that H in there because 6.0 Bros is actually taken from someone else. But send that information there, and that way, because you can send me videos and stuff there along, and we can just talk that out. And any way that I can, perfect. Any way I can help you, man, I'm happy to work with you and see if we can't get your truck up and running again. Oh, Robert, I didn't know that. I did not know that you could get logic side boards. And that must be a newer thing, or just was never really talked about much. I've seen like the replacement logic sides, like the whole half shell, but I haven't seen just the board. But I'm looking it up now to see. You can get half shells at O'Reilly's and other parts stores, but if you're planning on keeping the truck, then someone recommending Fickum Repair. Circuit board medics is another option. That's not the first time I've heard about them either. But thanks for sharing that. I was not aware. Joe, what alternator did you go with? I'm not looking to upgrade mine, but I do always enjoy to hear what people are running with theirs. I agree with Josh. No one's like having a Mo Howard on the show. Love the 6.0 content, but you can't have enough comic relief these days. Just replace my Fickum on a Fair Logic with an Alliant from XDP. I like Alliant stuff. They have good replacement parts. Their quality is very high. Joe, I would send it in and have it tuned. I would recommend like a 40 horsepower tune or the Eco tune. It just kind of helps clean things up, kind of fine tune how the injectors are firing. And if you look around, you probably find a steel on like the power supply somewhere, and you could just have a whole other Fickum ready to go. What's the best way to replace the inner injector O-rings? Don't let these squares hold you down. Joe, 180. That's actually what I have in my truck. I have 180, and it's a good one. I definitely highly recommend putting that on. Yeah, the 40 the 40 from PHP is good. I'm going to be reviewing Blessed Performance Fickum tuning soon. I don't. I would like to. I'd like to compare the PHP stuff, which was really kind of the original Fickum tuner back in the day. I really like them. I've run their tunes before, and I've had very good luck with them in the past. But I haven't had the opportunity to run their Fickum tunes. They were one of the companies kind of pioneering that, and a lot of other people have gotten on board since. I imagine there isn't a ton of crazy stuff they can do. I think they're all pretty similar. Some of them have improved cold weather starting with how they heat things up on the injectors by firing them randomly. But a lot of good options there, but I would definitely do a 40 because it'll play nice with any tune. The economy tunes will play nice again with any tunes out there. You don't have to worry about it being too much or not playing well. When you get into the 80 and the 100 ones, you really need to be letting all your tuners know what Fickum tune you're running because they need to probably make some modifications in their tuning. A lot of people don't recommend the higher horsepower ones from PHP or anybody for that matter. I like the fact that the lower ones help you get less smoke with them. You get improved starting. So that's my kind of reason for liking those. The 80 and 100 still get good starts, but you start to get a little smokier. You tend to have higher EGTs that you got to contend with. So that's not always super great. Joe, nice setup, 155s in a KC Stage 1. It's a nice pairing overall. Joe, yes, you can get you can oh Josh. Anyway, Fickum Repair does all of it. They can fix it and they can also tune your Fickum as well. They have all that there. A nice service that they offer. It's pretty easy. You don't have to mess with a whole lot. Nolan not of age. That doesn't surprise me. Nolan having decent advice. 205/30s over 155/30s. I shockingly agree. I will say this. I think most people should upgrade to a 175 stock nozzle. People looking for more horsepower, that is a nice sweet spot. You don't have to change your transmission out to contend with the power. It runs really well. It tows excellent. In a full fuel tune, you're talking like 520 horsepower if you have a good healthy fuel system and the turbo for it. And it doesn't take a monster turbo to drive it, so you still have good bottom end performance, good towing performance. 205/30s, if you're looking for a more rowdy truck and still being able to tow, they're a great injector. However, you are starting to push the top tier of the towing capacity. I don't recommend towing with bigger injectors than that. You really just have a hard time controlling your exhaust temps, keeping the exhaust clean, not blacking out the whole highway. Hotshot's Secret seems to run cleaner in injectors. Quite impressed. So Hotshot's is really good. I've had a lot of people say it was slower to start working. However, it worked longer. I've always been a big fan of Arch Oil, that I've used a lot of that. I would like to try Hotshots in the near future, but Arch Oil always seemed to work much quicker. However, I noticed with a set of injectors that was on their way out, towards like the end getting ready for an oil change, it was clearly not working anymore. And some of that rough idle started to come back. So Hotshots, I've had a lot of people say it definitely goes further than the Arch Oil, but both products are excellent. I highly recommend both. I wouldn't use both at the same time, just one or the other. Highly recommend. 205/30s can be dummied down to work like a 155/30. Yes, they can. That is a completely factual statement. I still like that injector. However, I just don't think most people need it. A 205/30, you start to really push the system. You start to require regulated returns and an aftermarket fuel pump to really keep them safe. You're at the upper end of what the factory high pressure oil system can tolerate. Even in the earlier pumps, which pumped out a little bit more at factory volumes, compared to the later style pumps, but you're really starting to stress that whole system a lot more um, with it. Do I think 205/30s are one of the best injector sizes? Absolutely, without a doubt. But I think a 175 stock nozzle would serve more people better, and you'd have sometimes people go too big in their setups and then they end up disliking them in the end. 175 stock can run very much like a stock injector. Your temps are going to be great. You're going to get a really clean burn. You won't maximize the 175 injector. I will say that. But you're only really missing out when you're more towards that 3,800 to 4,000 RPM range, which is about redline anyway. But you are missing probably 3,500 to 4,000. So you do miss out on the peak horsepower of what that injector can do because you can't push enough fuel out. But what you trade off for that is a really clean burning truck, really efficient, and you're only missing out on like 30-ish horsepower on a full fuel tune. Down low and on a tow tune, when you're really working your truck, you get the benefit of that cleaner burn from it because you get more of like a mist when it sprays out the smaller nozzle. So it just burns better and you get more of that power being utilized, lower exhaust temps, and less black smoke while you're trying to tow your camper and stuff like that. But 205/30s and 175 stocks, my two favorite injectors, and I will recommend them for a long, long time. Nolan, again, I do agree. It gives you a lot of room to improve in the future. I just think it is to an area where a lot of people don't really want. Used extreme version of Hot Shots, worked quick. So exactly what is better about the Warren 155s over the stock ones? So a stock nozzle, a stock injector is 135. So the first number is how much fuel they're saying you can use. 135, 155, etc. CC is how it's measured. So you have a little bit bigger body. The injector, it's like the whole there. So I want to say there's 6 or are they 5? They might be 5 whole nozzles. The percentage is how much larger than the stock size are they. So a 30% is 30% larger than the factory size. Then they do 7,500s, 150s. Then you start getting into like some custom stuff. That gets really hard with the custom size. And you're normally talking like big injectors, like 400 cc injectors. People like they don't really advertise them a whole lot anymore that big because it's really more competition guys that are out there pushing extreme dyno numbers and stuff like that. You're not really dealing with those smaller crowd. The most people are kind of in the areas that we talked about. Where was I? So, and it's not that the Warren is necessarily better, as it does allow you to just put a little more fuel. So the factory injector doesn't really lend itself well to getting 500 horsepower. It tops out like typically around the 470 mark. If you have a perfect running truck in every aspect and you have all the little detail upgrades, intercooler, exhaust manifolds, intake manifolds, your exhaust, slightly larger turbo, like a stage 1, then yeah, a 155 the stock nozzle or stock injector might be able to get you to 500 horsepower, but it's pretty rare for that to happen. A 155 will bump you just over into the 500 horsepower setup. But again, you need to have a lot of other supporting stuff. A 175 stock nozzle will get you in the bottom end of 500s. 520s about where they max out at, which is a great number. It's still a fun truck. You can run small turbos and really enjoy them. You don't have to go to like stage 3 turbos where they're kind of on the big side and quite frankly not as fun to drive on a daily unless you're running big injectors and you have some place where you can kind of run. I do always recommend premiums. I do not recommend getting their cheaper injectors, I've heard people have a lot of problems. The premiums I've run, I've had good luck with all their premiums. You can get away with out of regulated return on the smaller injectors. It's still good practice. It never hurts, but you can get away with it. Joe, thanks, man. I appreciate you trying to get some more people to hit the like button. Fickum volts, read 12 volts, and 48. I was thinking it's probably a logic side. I would just hate to throw money at it, not the Fickum. Rich, did you check cam crank sync and Fickum sync? Josh, I will be shaving tomorrow. Will a stock turbo work? Nolan, I'm not answering that. That's a dumb question. I think I'm just going to get a reman Fickum. Rich, not a bad idea. I mean, you can always send one out to have it fixed. It does sound like you might have a bad logic side. So you would never replacing with stock 135s even for long-term reliability. Hey Drake, how you doing, man? So I'm not against stock injectors at all for 6 liters. And I think a lot of people, it's easy when you see some of these builds, people running bigger injectors, and it's easy to think that's what you need to do. There's no reason to not go with a good, healthy set of stock injectors. I think Ford probably has one of the better warranties. It's 3 years unlimited miles on their injectors. They are remand units. You can also get stock injectors from Warren. Alliant makes a good one as well. Those are all good choices to go. And quite frankly, a good running stock 6 liter with a nice little tune is a fun truck and very reliable. There is not a reason to go bigger unless you want to goof around more, truthfully. I can think of a lot of ways to say this is the best way to upgrade this, that, and the next thing. But truthfully, there's nothing wrong with stock nozzles, stock turbo, any of those things. Do not feel like you need to upgrade. For guys that are using these trucks predominantly for work, I think staying stock or at the most the biggest I'd go is a 175 stock on them. Again, you're using your truck for work. Your needs are different. If you're goofing around and having fun, sure, I can understand the upgrade, but there's nothing wrong with that stock setup. There's a guy that asked me a lot of questions that I know at the gym, and he asked a lot of questions about this because he wants to get a 6 liter and mess with stuff. I tell him for his case use, I don't recommend it. Stick to the stock stuff. Like he's looking to use his truck for business. I'm like, maybe if your turbo fails, sure, maybe I'd consider a stage 1. I think that's a nice upgrade. But don't go nuts. It's really just not worth the money spent on the truck at that point, in my opinion. I bought the Harbor Freight T7 scan tool. Joe, how do you like the Harbor Freight T7? It looks like a cool piece. I don't plan to buy it, but I do think it's really interesting. I just want to daily drive my 6.0 and enjoy my money. Ooh, $5.85 a gallon. Mongoose, can you leave that state, please? Please. Come to the rest of America. We're much better. We do have cheaper fuel in other parts of the country, although at times we've been up there. If you're going to have a reason to, there's nothing wrong with keeping them stock. Again, every now and then Nolan drops a decent piece. Well, they are all remans at this point. I think some people are making more parts for them to actually have like a new injector. Hey man, just did an ICP. It was throwing a code, crossover tube code. Now no codes and no start at all. What the heck do you think happened? Well, that's a good question. Do you have anything to scan your truck to kind of start looking into it? I mean, just replacing an ICP sensor shouldn't cause that. So the first thing I'd probably do is unplug the ICP sensor and try to start your truck and see what happens. So if you have something wrong with your ICP sensor or the pigtail, if you unplug it, it goes to an inferred value, and that'll kind of so if you unplug it, it goes to an inferred value, and that will tell you if it's then you're narrowed down to either that's a bad sensor or it's a bad pigtail. And I see down here you talk about a prong was messed up. That could potentially be the issue. It could just be bad. Again, oil gets in there a lot, and it does kind of mess up. Typically, IPR valves go bad when you have pumps going bad. Premier rearmans are the way to go. They replace almost everything. By the way, all these upgrade turbos and intakes, injectors on stock head bolts and gaskets are a recipe for blowing head gaskets. Robert, I agree 100%. Do I think you can maybe get away with running a light tow tune, maybe a turbo? Sure, I do. And I don't think you really put big detriment. You start getting into injectors with that turbo and you're running race tunes or you're really pushing it, absolutely. You do start to really increase that chance of causing head gasket failure if you haven't had studs done correctly already. What size would you use for a heavy tow tune on a dually setup? So Drake, if I was doing injectors on a dually setup, and I would imagine I'm probably towing pretty heavy. I have like 2.5-ish kind of build ideas. One, stock injectors, a stock turbo, or maybe a stage 1 turbo with the 10 blade exhaust side, I think is a really nice setup. Just a nice little mild 40-50 horsepower tow tune. You'll love it. It'll tow whatever you want. I tend to spend more time looking at upgrading the small things. Getting like an ODOG S2R intake will really help. BD exhaust manifolds, making sure that your intercooler boots and pipes are in good shape, or upgrading your pipes and boots to something like the SoCal billet set. No Limit Fab makes nice stuff. Bless Performance has some good stuff. Getting an upgraded intercooler to deal with the work it's going to have to put up with. That's kind of where I fall on that. That's probably one of the best builds you could do. Now, if you do want a little bit more on your tow build, and I think a dually build like this would be cool, I'd still recommend all those little things. But if you wanted to go a little bit bigger, maybe a stage 2 turbo. You guys all know the turbo sponsor, Turbo Time USA, 60 bros for 10% off. There's a link down below that is an affiliate code, but it does get you 10% off your turbo. But considering going to a 175 stock, I would not go bigger than 175 stock on that. And that will run really well. I would put a stage 2 turbo with that 175 stock nozzle injector. Great setup. You can run it on stock fuel system if you'd like to, as long as it's healthy. I would always make sure you're monitoring fuel pressure with that to make sure you're over 45 psi. Under 45 psi, you start to cause injector failure. There's a little bit of damage happening, and over time that will kill them early. But yeah, those would be my 2 recommendations. Once the Army gives me new orders to move, well, Mongoose, can they hurry up on that and get you out of that state? You deserve better. 419 in Pittsburgh. There's a few places around here. I think the one place I go, I can regularly get it for like $3.80 a gallon. There's plenty of places that are like $4.10 to $4.30 a gallon. There's a few places that are under $4 around here. ICP plug messed up prong. I thought the pure power injectors were the OEM builder for Ford and are still all new. I haven't looked up to see if they're still all new. Pure Power is the company that did the Ford injectors for a long time, and most people for that matter. I do know at one point Some company had a contract and Alliant for a while got cut out, but I don't know the current stake and all that stuff. Could it be an IPR valve after that? Was your truck running before the ICP sensor change? Unplugging the ICP will tell the PCM has enough H power to stop. Yeah, so if you unplug it, it just defaults to a certain value, and then it doesn't just stay at 550 PSI. Josh, it tells everybody that you love me. That's what it is. Get the hearts going. I love it, guys. But it basically calculates what it should be based on throttle position and a few other parameters. The best thing to do is, or the reason you do that is it'll let you know if you have an ICP sensor or a pigtail issue. It's one of those two things if your truck starts when you unplug it. So if it was running before and that's the only thing you messed with, it is unlikely you messed something else up. I think it's probably in that area. And simply unplugging it, it's free to diagnose, costs you zero money. So why not do it to rule it out? Now, I would also take a good look at that pigtail. If it's in rough shape, I would replace it. There's plenty of pigtail kits out there to replace it with. I would recommend it. And then from there, you can kind of figure it out, or you can try your old ICP sensor if you still have it. Yeah, I think that's all I recommend. I don't think it's an IPR. Typically, IPR valves, they go out if you get debris in the oil system or your high pressure oil pump is failing. Mechanically, they very rarely fail. They normally get debris in them, causing them to fail. Diesel Tech Ron has a good video out there showing how he cleans one out, where he basically puts something up in there to depress it and then sprays a bunch of WD-40 in to kind of clean it out. Where was I? Sorry, I'm a little behind here. Let me come back up. That probably is on the list. I messaged you on Facebook about it, and turned out that was the fuel pump. FMC, good to help you. Did you talk to me on Facebook? I can't remember. How heavy? I would also look at rear gears. I've had problems since I was rear-ended at 20 with fuel because it tripped the safety shutoff switch. That stinks. I will try a few people who do, yes. 15,000-pound fifth wheel. Drake, are you running factory tire size on that? $175 stock, big injectors, and heavy towing equals lag. No. Incorrect. You're confusing lag with slow moving. They are two different things. So a 175, so you will introduce a little lag with a larger turbo. Down low grunt. However, most people do not spend the bulk of their time towing under 20 miles an hour, which honestly, you really don't notice it. You're towing, you have a lot of load on the truck, so your lag isn't that bad. I will say, I've talked about this before in turbo videos. I haven't talked about it in a while, but your whole setup kind of goes into lag. So if you're running really big tires and factory gears, you're going to introduce lag into your setup. You make that worse when you start adding larger turbos to it. Now, there's kind of a sweet spot for turbos and your setup and what your injectors are running. A 175 stock nozzle with a stage 2 turbo doesn't have a ton of lag in it. Is it more lag than 175 stocks with a stock turbo? A little bit, Nothing crazy though, truthfully. You do end up sacrificing a little bit down low. So where you will notice that is when you're getting up and going from a dead stop and you're really low cruising speed. So if you're cruising and you're at like 2000 RPM, you might be under the turbo a little bit. You need to come up to like 2200, maybe 2300 RPM. So nothing like super crazy there. 265, 65, 18. Let's see what that comes out to. I don't think you need to worry about gears on a dually with that size tire, because you're coming out to under 32 inches. So yeah, I don't think you really have to worry about tire size. That's going to be fine, especially with 410s. That's probably actually perfect. So you, with that setup, you could get away with the slightly bigger injectors and the stage 2 turbo. That wouldn't be a problem at all. Now, I will say this before you do that, if you're not running a tow tune, I would try just a tow tune. It's going to be your cheapest upgrade with the least amount of like invasive work on your truck. The other thing is I would be a little cautious doing upgrades if you're on factory head stud or bolts, if you're not studded. Now, if you're okay realizing you're putting yourself at a higher chance of blowing gaskets, then sure, by all means, go. Just understand that you are putting yourself at greater risk for not necessarily a ton on return. So that is one thing to kind of consider. Make sure you're using Ford OEM sensors. Robert, excellent point. Don't cheap out on sensors. The only other company I've ever used and had good luck with is Alliant sensors as well. Nolan's had his ICP unplugged for his 7.3 past 20,000 miles. Fix your truck, man. Stupid. Is it sending you guys ads in the middle of this? Does that happen? It's one size bigger. Let me, yeah. Oh yeah, we talked about that. .488 gears and a good torque converter. 488 is massive. That's got to be pushing what it can actually fit in there. Well, guys, I didn't realize it was sending you guys ads in the middle of this. I will have to change that during the live stream. I didn't realize it did that. I think I know the setting I can change when I'm setting up my live stream. And the next one, I will stop that. I will not let that happen. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was doing that. I don't think you missed anything important, FMC. I think I went to like the next question there. But if I didn't answer something, or if I was answering your question and you missed it, let me know what it was, and I will work on that again. And like I said, I will fix the ad thing. I'll fix the ad thing from the next one. I'm able to listen from Mongoose's phone. How are you doing, Mrs. Mongoose? Sorry, I'm a little behind here. Mrs. Mongoose, make sure he has his volume turned up. Don't let him be stingy with the content. Although I do know you love when my dog comes around. I wish Izzy would come pop in because you always got you used to always joke around about her popping to see you. Jay, how you doing, brother? And clean my system out pretty good. So, FMC, if everything's working, I wouldn't go through and actually open it up. Like if everything's fine, again, I would definitely go look and check that ICP sensor thing we talked about out. After you address that, if things go back to working fine, I wouldn't necessarily open things up just to replace things for the sake of doing it. Down the road, I would probably plan, if you're unsure of when your snap to connect fitting, standpipes, and dummy plugs were addressed, I would make a plan for this summer to maybe do that, because those will eventually leave you stranded somewhere, or they'll start causing issues. But I pay for premium, no commercials. However, though, I would address your issue now before you start opening other things up and potentially causing other issues that you might have to address. I think that would be better for you than necessarily go hunting for something. Sorry, trying to keep up with all the comments. Here's Josh talking about the big bucks that I do not have. Dummy plug failure is not pretty rare on 05 through 07 trucks. That is an inaccurate statement. Just joined, but I'm not sure you saw an old message. I installed the O-Dog intake, just did a 200 plus tow, huge decrease in EGTs. It's Jay, I did see it. I've been meaning to respond. I really need to get on that tonight after this live stream. One of my favorite upgrades for the 6-liter. I always have recommended it a lot to people. When you're really working your truck, it just works. And again, I do think you pick up a lot of efficiency with that. He did such a good job on that intake design. Mrs. Mongoose, of course, always good to have you here. We're all listening to you. I get a kick out of you guys watching my nonsense together. It makes me laugh. I love it. Jay, I'm doing well. Dude, I had solid power, did the fuel pressure regulator, then last Sunday I went out of town, came back, and it wouldn't start. FMC, I think what you need to do is watch my video on, let me pull it up, on the no start. I think I may have misunderstood some of like the timeline for this, and I think this video would probably help you out a lot. It doesn't go into every last detail, but it goes into a lot of the comments. I would save that video for later to kind of give you an idea. You need to really look into a few things. So we've talked about a few things here. I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood you a little bit, but I'm going to go over the main things that lead to no starts. Cam sync, that sensor can go bad. Fickum sync will cause the truck to no start. Weak voltage. Personal, and I worry about you. Weak Fickum voltage can cause no start. Typically, you get a very like sluggish start, like the truck's stumbling over itself, but it can cause a no start. ICP pressure measured in voltage, I think it's 0.9 is the actual value you need for the truck to start. I have it listed in that video. IPR, measuring that, and so that's measured from 15 to 85%. If it's at 85% and your truck's not starting, you're very likely your ICP voltage is probably going to read low, and that will tell you that you're not building pressure. So at that point, then yes, with this out of town part that you said, then it wouldn't start. You may have a leak, a high pressure oil leak somewhere that's gotten bad enough that it won't start anymore. That's very likely where you're at if I understand what happened correctly now. And then bad battery voltage is the next one you want to keep an eye on. But typically, one of those things is causing your issue. Um, and that video goes into a little more depth than that about what's happening and probably can help you out a fair amount. If you need something to help look those values up, Forescan, excellent. Torque Pro with like a cheap OBD2 Bluetooth sensor off Amazon, like a $10 one, works great. Has helped me diagnose a couple different people's trucks, honestly, and it's easy to carry with you just about anywhere. Nolan, dude, stop. I just saw your comment towards Mrs. Mongoose. Don't do that. Back to this. Nolan, it's not that I'm taking your comments to heart. I realize you're like, just to put this out there, I realize you're probably just a dumb kid. I don't know why you're so upset about whatever you're dealing with or why you're trying to harass this, but I am gonna I'm just kind of done. Like, I don't know. Don't make rude comments at other people's significant others. That's good advice just in life in general. You'll meet the wrong guy and they won't like it. And when you do that crap in person, some people will have different opinions. That's good life advice that you should probably take. All right. I just put him on a 24-hour ban. I'm done with that. Going to watch this. Robert, is the S3R the one that has the upgraded EGR system to help with emissions better? If I remember correct. I didn't ban him. I just put him so he can't comment for 24 hours. He'll probably go make another channel and pop back, but I feel like he's distracted enough, and I am pretty firm on. I want this to be a good place for people to come ask questions, and I mean, half of his comments are just deliberately giving bad advice. He clearly has learned a fair amount about the 6 liter, but he knows a thing or two. I'm just not. I'm not letting him hijack this chat and mess stuff. And I do have a pretty I'm not. I've seen other channels allow that stuff. I'm small enough that I can still kind of fight that nonsense. So I'm just not. I don't like it. He is a kid. Hopefully, he at some points stops a little bit with that. Next week he can come back. He can comment on any of the other videos, but he needs to chill a little bit. We do all power strokes, and I will even have other questions about it. I've talked to Dodge. Dodge gets brought up from time to time. Mia comes on, and he switched from the 6.0 to a 6.7 Dodge. He loves that truck. I do give him a little bit of a hard time, but he's such a good guy. I met him the last time I raced my 6 liter. He was at that show with his son, I believe. Super cool guy. He had a gorgeous 05 or 07 350 crew cab dually. It was just a nice truck. Really a cool build on that one. I definitely liked it. Now, Robert, yes. Uh, no, the O-Dog intake manifold really is a great addition to any build. Even if you're running a stock truck, I still think airflow modifications that don't add strain on the system, like a bigger turbo requires more drive pressure to run and get into its efficiency range. Excuse me. Um, but these other things that don't add strain on it and just improve airflow, I think are great additions to even stock trucks. Jay, did I see you said you're going to get the Banks intercooler and intercooler pipe setup next? Just let me know, and I when you want, and I'll send you another affiliate link for it. Um, my personal opinion, I've given more good advice with you. And there he is. I'm looking up the Banks one now for you, man. Jay, what year truck do you have? Because there are a couple slight. You have an '07. Okay, there are some slight differences, so I'll make sure I send you the correct year. Let me just scroll through and see if there's any of that are slightly. Sometimes the prices online, you got to be a little careful. There can be some more expensive ones with who I have the affiliate stuff with. All right. All right, man. That's the affiliate link for the Banks intercooler. When you really start looking at like nice intercoolers, nice pipes, the Banks doesn't seem as out there as I used to think it was. There's really is, if you get a set of SoCal Billet or No Limit Fab intercooler pipes, you're talking about $700 there. You get a nice, intercooler. Um, I do think you can still get the CFF 6028 on Rock Auto for like 400 ish. I think I got mine for like 350 year. I mean, it was like 7 years ago, but that's always a good one as well. But like you start getting into like you look at the cheaper Mishimoto that's thicker, very similar to the Banks. You're talking $500 there. So the Banks doesn't seem as out there as I used to think it was. Um, it is still a premium compared to other stuff, compared to like the SoCal Billet and a CSF 6028. That's one of my favorite setups, but you do get the larger intercooler pipes. They're 3.5 inch in diameter instead of 3. I know a lot of people that run the Banks and love that setup. It's probably a little marginally better. I don't know that it's like crazy improvement, but I do think it probably does flow more, and a lot of people love it. Yeah, I know you can only get the S2R. There used to be a period where you could still kind of like, if you knew a couple people, could get the S3R, but it is just the S2R at this point. Still, they're both excellent, and the S2R still like you're not inhibited the amount of flow that you get, but it is all emissions compliant. Um, I saw around 200 drop in your last tow after I installed the O-Dog. That's an awesome drop in temps, truthfully. Have O-Dog, KC1, stock injectors, Banks Technicooler. It runs well, not stressing anything, as Bro says. Doug, that's a great setup, man. Like, truthfully, it's going to be perfect. I love that setup. And I think a lot of people that are talking about modding their 6 liter, if they had what you do, probably would be very happy. I would go BD exhaust manifolds and their Y pipe but you are really splitting hairs on overall like increase in performance. It just kind of smooths everything out a little bit. But you have like the big ticket items that are the most upgrade you're going to get, in my opinion. Jay, good to have you, man. I wish you well. You take care, brother. Mongoose, the Fickum Hater shirt is live in my defense. Let me see if I can. In my description has the. In my description has the link to Teespring, and there is a Fickum Hater shirt in there. I haven't logged in a while. I do not keep super great track of merch sales and such. Needs to be something I work on a little bit. I was actually talking about changing some of them here recently. Here we go, store. View store. I'll get you a link here in just a second. Here we go. Mongoose, I'll buy you one. And let me make sure. I think I still have. Where can I do it? It's been a while since I've been on, but I want to make sure I think I have free shipping if you use code 60bros. Let me type that out here. Should give a free shipping or a discount. I can't remember which. Quick question. My 06 250 started leaking oil from the top of the motor below the alternator. Any ideas? Joe, good having you, man. I appreciate all your help. You have a good night, and I'll see you next week, man. So right below the alternator in the valley, that's kind of a tricky spot because there's like 3 to 4 things it could be. It's not typically your valve cover because normally oil sits more towards the bottom of that, so it's kind of rare to see it leak from the top out on, but it technically could be coming out that way. Typically where you start seeing oil leaks in this area comes from the turbo drain tube, the oil cooler housing, or the Fickum, or not Fickum, excuse me, high pressure oil pump housing. Those last 3 I listed are more likely your places that they're actually coming from. So what's tough is you got to kind of try to clean up in that area, start running your truck and try to catch where it's coming from. Most likely it's coming from your oil cooler housing. Would be my bet. They can leak over time. They can leak over time, but typically speaking, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I got annoyed. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, so oil cooler housing is typically where you lose it from in that area. Again, it can be from it can come from your high pressure oil pump, or the turbo drain is the second most common place I see it in. So that's kind of where I would go from. Robert, I do plan to get the Discord going. It is actually on my list this week for, I believe, Wednesday. I have it listed as something I'd like to look into. So I do plan to do that and get the community up. I'll definitely be getting some moderators in to help make sure, like some of the stuff happening tonight, to make sure we keep it clean and helpful for people. That is the goal of it. But I do think it can be a successful place for people to come. Actually, But Robert, you have a good one, man. Always good having you here in the chat. Eric, who sells a decent IPR for under $200? Let me quick take a look here and see what we can find for you, because there's only really two companies I would recommend for something like that, and Ford is the primary one. IPR. So Bosch normally makes decent stuff. Bless Performance has a Bosch IPR for 180 reman. And I will say this, they do very rarely mechanically fail. Typically they can be sometimes they, this is tough. I've never been asked this question before, but when I really think, like, it is no different than cleaning out your own, like a lot of people do. And honestly, if I was you, I'd probably start there. If you're going to go through the hassle of pulling yours out anyway, I would try to clean it first before you spend any money. Now you can get the there's like O-ring and screen kits for them. You can find, and they're kind of all over the place. Bless Performance sells them as well. If you look up IPR screen, you can get the screen and the O-ring kit for them. They sell the socket as well, and just get a cheap. I have a cheap IPR socket; it works fine. But that's what I would probably do. I'd probably clean mine first, try that. If it works, great. If not, oh well. Bosch CP4. The CP4 is definitely an area that's a problem. Definitely not their best setup. Comment on the S2R intake. Just because you can't get the S2R doesn't mean any exhaust gases ever need to see the inside of your S2R, hypothetically speaking, of course. Well, Doug, hypothetically, 100%, that is a factual statement. Spot on. You have a no start, just want to replace everything. Eric, have we gone over your, like, have you figured out your no start, or are you still kind of in the process of figuring all that out? The CP4 is one of the worst things Bosch ever did. I'm thinking of selling it with 114,000 miles. Think price for a 4x4 layer pickup, interior in good shape. Everything works. It should just develop the oil leak. I'm not diesel mechanic. Justin, I will say with that oil leak, it's annoying to deal with. It's not the end of the world to fix. It does take some work to fix. I will say that. It's not like it's just going to happen. But it is reasonable. I have a pretty decent video going over the whole teardown if you want to. And it's a pretty cheap fix. I will say if you wanted to hold off on, what year is it? I think you said the year, I can't remember. 06. So in 06, you could pretty easily take the turbo off. Again, I have plenty of videos showing that. And you could at least lift up the high pressure oil pump cover, reseal that, get a new gasket and a little Ford has a silicone that you seal the rear of it on, and then bolt that back down. The O-ring kits for the turbo are super cheap. That would rule 2 of 3 out, and that's an afternoon job. That's not that bad to do. And then after that, you would at least know if it was coming from your high pressure oil, or oil cooler or not. So that's one thing to consider. Justin, I guess the question you should really ask is, do you need, and I don't mean this in any rude way by chance, but do you need a diesel 3/4 ton pickup? I think the 6 liter is still a great one to have. Truthfully, I love the things. But if you don't need one and you don't feel like dealing with the oil leak, I get it. Um, and I'll say this, at 114,000 miles, oh, they sound so amazing. I will say at 114,000 miles, you have a 4-door, 4x4 Lariat. It will go for some decent money. Uh, they are great sounding trucks. I don't want to diagnose this. I just want to put new IPR, ICP, standpipes, dummy plug, no injector, new oil backfill valve, low pressure oil pump valve. That's fair, Eric. I just would hate to. My only concern is I'd hate to see you spend money on addressing the whole oil system for it to not be the oil system. But I can understand just saying I want this all brand new. I would try to stick with Ford the best you can. I do really like Alliance stuff as well, like I said. See if we could find. Oh, excuse me. It's like the Ford IPR is like $200 or $300 to $400 most places. I wouldn't go too cheap on the IPR. I will say that. FMC, you just watched the video. Would it throw a code for a cam sync? It should. It should throw a code for a cam sync. I'm trying to think here. If I've seen this. I mean, well, no, you have a no start. You don't have a long start. You have a no start. Oh wait, no, that wasn't you. FMC, can you remind me of the issue we're working through on yours? Was yours a no start condition that we're kind of working out? No rust, originally Oklahoma pickup. No rust, fair paint. Yeah, Eric, it shouldn't. I don't think it's. I think you're right. I don't think it throws a hard code, but I do think it throws a soft code in the background. I know once. FOMOCO. I know I had to replace mine once, and I never got a hard code that turned the light on, but I would get soft codes intermittently in the background for it. But they also cleared really fast. So they were kind of hard to catch as well, as I'm kind of thinking this through. But if you have some kind of monitor like Forescan that can read, or Torque Pro should do the same thing. Perfect. Hot no start now, just a no start. If you had FMC again, I apologize because I think I really misunderstood what your problem was earlier on your truck. You are probably very likely in the category of people that needs to look at standpipes, dummy plugs, and snap to connect fitting. That is most likely where your truck is having the issue. And what year was yours? You told me to download this Torque app and you can't get it to work. So you have to go when you're in there to find like the settings to come in. You have to go. I actually have. Let me quick pull this up on my phone so I can walk you through what you need to do. So if you go down to settings, Special settings in that's not it. Hold on, let me find the right place. Oh, so go to settings, then go to manage extra PIDs and sensors. And then in the top right corner, um, add predefined list. And you'll see Ford including Powerstroke. That is what you need to add there to be able to get all the correct things to be able to actually look at it. And then do you have you got the OBD? That was going to be my next thing I ask. Did you hear what I said though? So when you bring up the Torque Pro, in the bottom left, you'll see the thing you can hit to go to settings. Then you want to hit that manage extra PIDs/sensors, and then hit the three dots in the corner. Add, it's not showing up well. Add predefined set is the second one down. And then the third one down, you'll actually see Ford including Powerstroke. That'll let you add all the Ford specific stuff in there. Did you pay for the pro version of it? Because you do need the pro version. I think it's like $5 or $7. So FMC, that's how you'll be able to set that part up. Um, for you, I would focus on being able to, and I should probably do a video setting Torque Pro up again. I never really did a full one. I should clear my whole phone out on it and just kind of start from scratch and show everybody how to do it. But for you, what I would really focus on is ICP voltage. Again, I believe it's 0.9 you need. Again, I say it in that video. IPR percentage or duty cycle is what I would also look at. You want to see if that your IPR is going to 85%. You probably have a leak somewhere. Even if your truck's cranking, if you hit 85% for even a second, you probably have a leak somewhere. Now, it might be mild. It might not ever really get bad, but typically on the 05, 6, and 7s, they do get bad and they do require a little more help, like a little more maintenance to get them back doing what they need to. Good batteries is very important as well, especially for a long crank. But she doesn't have necessarily a long crank. She does have a long crank because it won't start. She doesn't have a slow crank is what I mean. If you have old injectors, you might mess up your top seals when you remove the oil rail. That's why I'm just going to get new injectors. That's fair. They do sell O-ring kits to replace there's a top O-ring inside the injector where your oil rail sits. There's then the injectors down the body. There are kits to just replace all them. I believe Alliant sells one of the more popular ones. I'm sure there's some. Let's look it up to see if there's some Amazon ones, although I would probably stick with the Alliant one personally. Yeah, here's a Molly fuel injector seal kit for $38 on Amazon. That's not too bad. Thank goodness for the warranty. I remember trying to start after an injector job, and I didn't realize I didn't secure so on the early style you have a standpipe, and then you kind of have this like braided line crossover. I didn't secure that enough onto the oil log or fuel rail, as Ford calls them, and I had basically a massive leak. Like it was just dumping pressure out. And I didn't realize it. And I fried a set of batteries trying to get that truck to start too. I was so irritated. FMC, what also it'll crank long enough when it gets mad enough. I'll get a TBC fault. What fault do you get? Like specifically, like what's the code? Because that can help point in the direction. What's hard is when you start cranking super long is sometimes things stop reading correctly. And if like, especially if your batteries start kind of getting tired, it doesn't always give you a good idea of what's happening or what you're looking at on it. Feel like we're all waiting on the edge for FMC. Can I send you the codes I got and video of it angry last time it started on the trailer? Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram is probably the easiest place to send that. I don't know if it's still linked in my channel, come to think of it. Oh yeah, so in the channel description, it does have my Facebook, it has my Instagram, it has my Turbo affiliate link as well. So any of those would be good. If you just go to the channel, you can. Instagram tends to work a little better for me as far as stuff like this. And my email's on the about page of the channel if you want, but that's probably the worst way to get a hold of me because I suck at answering emails. It's not going to cause any problems starting. I had that on for 3 years. Mongoose, come on, man. Haven't we had one problem after another in this? This was a little bit of a distracting one. You know how I feel about Sinister stuff. They drive me insane. It's overpriced and underdeveloped in my sense, or in my opinion. And I don't see it changing because I'm not going to buy their stuff, and I have a hard time believing that they would send it to me. I will say, if they sent it to me, I would try their stuff. I definitely would. It's not even that I think all of it's bad. I think it's overpriced. That's really my issue. I think one or two things they do is dumb. I do think they have one of the cleaner setups for the 6.7 Powerstroke for that cold side intercooler pipe, which I know I say a lot. No wonder he's laughing at that comment. Oh, yeah, I'm sure he's cracking up at it. Drives me insane. Sinister Diesel does drive me insane because they have great marketing. They have some decent products. The price of some of this stuff is just, it's insane. It drives me nuts. Excuse me. I don't even dislike the color. I hate how they treat the color. You would think they literally invented the color blue. But let's look at some stuff. $540 for an air intake. $740 for a aluminum degas bottle. That's nuts. Some billet caps, almost $300. A billet water pump, that's a knockoff of Bulletproof Diesel, which I also think is an overpriced piece, $550. The 08 one is $680 almost. Drives me nuts. If it's my oil core leaking, should I just replace it? I mean, Justin, what I would do is I would double check your temps. So I would get the truck up to operating temp, so about around 185 to 190 degrees oil and coolant temp. Is operating temp. Go find a relatively flat road of highway and go 65 miles an hour. If you're like 14, 15 degree difference on coolant to your oil, if your oil is 15 degrees higher, then I think it's worthwhile replacing. Okay, 13 to 15 apart. Assuming it's under the use case I just said, 65 on a flat road, then I would probably think it would be worth it to replace it. However, if you're saying 13 to 15, it's fine. I just want this oil leak to stop. I'm cool if if in a couple years I need to go back. And as long as you keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't get worse, then I would say you could just replace the gasket. But I think you're like maybe $400 for a whole oil cooler. I would use high quality gaskets like Alliant gaskets for that. I'm looking up the kit here. And it does come with a new screen for down below. Well, if you get the one with the screen, Blessed has it for 137. Extreme Diesel has it for 112, but if you're just looking for all the O-rings and stuff, it looks like Extreme Diesel has it for $85. So they are a little expensive, but don't get the super cheap gaskets because they do fail. The kit I bought best for the fuel pressure regulator upgrade kit I bought. FMC, if you send me a picture of it as well, that can help me out. I see your message here. I'll be back after the live. Perfect. Yep. Send them my way, and we'll help get you squared away. I just did, I promise. So we should be good now. Mrs. Mongoose, if you could ever so gingerly maybe hit him in the shoulder for harassing me after. I feel like I've been harassed enough today. I think we've all been harassed enough. Justin, Eric brings up a good point about a back flush before you do it, because you're going to have to drain your coolant anyway. So you could do a back flush and see if that saves your oil cooler before you go in and do it. Because then you can just replace. I would, again, don't get cheap gaskets. They will cause you more issues than anything else. So that is something I would consider. Mrs. Mongoose, much appreciated. I appreciate you. You guys do crack me up. I love that you guys watch together. That's awesome. Jared supports domestic abuse. No, you're going to get my channel demonetized. Alliant isn't the best out there. They are very good, and there's like a certain degree of quality from them. I would consider Ford as well. Molly, if they make a kit, I would check those out as well. But Alliant is like, there's a certain degree of quality that you know you're going to get from them. And in my experience, they're great to kind of work with. So they're kind of my backup when Ford is either, in my opinion, too expensive or is longer for me to get. Let's see if I can look up Ford. Oh, the Ford kit might be cheaper in this instance. Hold on. Bless has the Ford oil cooler gas. Let me make sure this is a Motorcraft part. Yeah. Man, I will. So hold on. I stand corrected. I would get the Ford oil cooler gasket set from Bless Performance for $79. Mongoose, don't be a Nolan. All right. That's awesome. Jared, do better. That's funny. That I love that. She loves me and I deserve it. And in recent news, YouTube channel canceled after domestic abuse issue promoted by channel owner. Yeah, Eric, I heard about the oil cooler thing. I know years ago people used to talk about that the dormant oil coolers actually weren't bad, that it was their gasket kits that were bad. I know some people are saying Ford has switched to, I mean, Ford's probably switched suppliers multiple times over the years on their oil cooler. I doubt they've stayed with the same the whole time. Um, so there is that. I know there's I know there's a lot of different like upgraded ones that are designed to run a little bit hotter, but they don't clog as often. It is a tough one. Allegations. Yes, allegations. That's too funny. But I'm not 100% sure on like the truth of that. I know I do have a Ninja Pat who comes in here. He's a parts guy for Ford. So I run a lot of stuff by him. The last time we talked, send some band-aids with my t-shirt. I use a third-party company for the t-shirts, and I don't think they let me do 6 Bros band-aids, but I will check later because that would be funny. Uh, I don't love the relocation kits. Josh has a bulletproof diesel one, and I will say this: they use all very high quality parts with that. I just don't necessarily love the look of it, but it does turn a 5 to 8 hour job into like a 30-minute job. IPR has a cool one though, because IPR research lets you use the newer oil cooler off the 6.7. So I will say, if I was going to do one, I would probably go this route. Let's see what it's still expensive. Oh, and if you add the high flow coolant, I mean, you can have $2,000 into that setup. Now, if you just run the normal screen, you don't get all the extra stuff. You're at $1,429. Let's see, bulletproof diesel oil cooler relocation kit. Let's see how much this is. Because I know this is on the pricey side as well. So it looks like that's around $1,825 for their relocation kit. Oh, well, they let you use the newer style oil cooler now as well as also. Will that change it? Oh, that's tough. Did they change the way it looks in the truck? That would be tough. I would definitely have to look at each and compare them both a little closer than what I know about them right now. But you do have two options. I would say overall, I kind of like the IPR setup a little bit more in how they kind of route stuff. At the same time, they're both good kits. They just slightly different. It never clogs is that. Well, Eric, you got me there, man. It does not clog, and that is definitely a big benefit. I am glad to see Bulletproof Diesel remain competitive with IPR in that regard. IPR was definitely the first to let you use the newer style oil coolers. But I'm glad to see that Bulletproof Diesel has re-released theirs slightly different to allow you to do the same. Again, both good kits. I just am partial to the IPR. I would probably run the IPR. At the end of the day, you're making something fit in an area it was never meant to be in. Because I do think probably the nicest looking one is somewhere in between the two. But definitely cool setups, both. I love that they kind of push the limits a little bit. Guys, I do think we are going to close out the live stream, though. I want to thank everybody for coming in. If there's any more questions that you guys have that you want answers soon, hit me up on one of the videos. I can't live in these conditions. I do not have a spare room. I apologize. Plus, that would require you to go AWOL. That would be a whole thing. I don't want to be an accessory to that. I think I could get in trouble at that point too. So, and earlier you were saying she loves you and you deserve it. I mean, where are we at here? You're back and forth. It's a wishy-washy story. Justin, you're welcome, man. Again, if you guys have any questions you want answers to, hit me up on Instagram is an easy place. Any of these videos, and I'll do my best to get back to everybody as soon as I can. I'm going to probably answer some videos for a little bit and get back. Not a fanboy, but it won't ruin a trip or a day if you have to. FMC, you're welcome. Mrs. Mongoose, always good to have you. You'll be just fine here at home. Hey, later, guys. Again, I appreciate all you guys. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next upload.